The second problem is the time itself. It's a great leveler. All the Indian folklore would know what Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati is. Ganga is river Ganges, Jamuna is river Yamuna, Saraswati is also a river Saraswati. It finds its mention in our scriptures. It was supposed to be a very wide, forceful river flowing to the northwest of Indian continent, subcontinent. But it was dismissed as a myth for many, many years. That when you can't see a system river flowing like that, that means it is not existing. Thanks to the technology that we have now, which is satellite images, geologists have been able to, point out the river system emerged on its own, that this is where possibly the river Saraswati was. But the idea why I'm telling about river Saraswati is how many years old would it have been? It would have gone dry 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and it may have been active for hundreds of thousands of years. And we know how a powerful river it was. For sure, it would have left permanent scars on the landmass. But still, we are finding it so difficult to find something which is a few 100,000 years maximum that you can stretch. Then we are now here talking about hundreds of millions of years. So it would be almost impossible. So time is a great leveler, and we will not be able to. This is the contra point. But the counter to that is that these ancient river flow systems are underground in nature. We were not able to find out Saraswati River because it was a part of our current times. So it was on terra firma, ground level zero. And we found it difficult because it was, how should we say, covered or hidden by the vagaries of the atmosphere. But the ancient river flow system, if at all they are existing underground. So that means they are underground and they are preserved. It's only a matter of finding where they are and how to exploit them. And the second situation is the river flow systems that we are talking about from the ancient times, they have been in action for hundreds of millions of years. So when you have such rivers, water body moving on the landmass, they would for sure have created permanent scars on the landmass, and they would for sure be there forever. It's only a matter of exploiting. And the best part of the river flow system that existed when the India plate was migrating from Gondwana to Eurasian plate is that it's because of the block mountain formation, which is the Western Ghat. And the block mountain formation happens much, much quicker as compared to 15 million years taken for Himalayan ranges to form. Agreed, it is not happening in a day. When the cliff breaks and falls down under its own weight and the mountains are formed. But surely that is not more than a few thousand years. So that means that the river flow system, which is this river flow system, was active the moment it broke off from Gondwana till it reached the Eurasian plate. That is, for 130 million years, that river flow system was active. And plus, when it is Himalayas, which is fold mountains, the gradient is slowly increasing but changing. So there is a possibility that the river flow system, whenever the gradient changes, because of the local variations, it would change its directions. The general direction would be the same, but because the gradient is increasing, there is a chance that it may look for different directions. When I say it is changing, that means that the current 50 million years river flow system that we see, it is liable for changes in direction. But look at this one. For 130 million years, the tilt which has happened because of the breaking of the two continents would remain the same as long as the magma is pushing it towards the Eurasian plate. The gradient is going to be the same. So when you have the same water flow, volume of water flow going in the same direction without any change in the gradient for 130 million years, the scar is going to be massively permanent. And what happens because of that is that the riverbeds that were existing for those 130 million years when the India plate was migrating from Gondwana to Eurasia, it was very deep in nature. It was much deeper than what the river flow system are in the present time. That is the counter to these questions of time. And another question which can puncture this concept of river flow change system is the geological forces. Generally, over a period of time, as I said, the landmass receives a lot of loose soil because of the wind or the atmosphere getting deposited on the landmass. It is moved from one landmass to the other. So over millions of years, you have got layers like this. So the layer which is the deepest can be considered as the oldest, and the layer on which we are standing, it is the youngest. Now, imagine if there are geological forces on a landmass which are cataclysmic in nature. These layers that we see here would be completely mangled. These layers would not exist at all. So we need to see whether India mass or the India plate, the landmass, has had experienced any cataclysmic geological forces in its lifetime. There are two of them. One is known as Deccan Traps, DLIP, Deccan Large Igneous Provinces. So this is where what is marked here as dark gray area was affected by the volcanic lava flow. So when you have such volcanic lava flow, you cannot expect the layers to remain as they are. For sure, they will be mangled. So the chances of exploiting this river flow system on this area would be less. But fortunately, it is only 10 to 15% area of the landmass of the India plate. So another factor is that much of the India plate, when it was migrating from Gondwana to Eurasia, generally the layering happens when you are connected to neighboring land masses. So in the sense, the atmosphere lifts the loose soil and deposits on you. If at all you do not have any landmass neighbors, obviously the chances of this layering will be there. It would be reduced because you have sea on the left and sea on the right hand side. That is what happened with India plate. When it was moving from this place to this place, obviously it didn't have any neighboring landmass. So possibly the layering, even if it is there, it would be a shallow depth, which would help us exploit even if the ancient landmasses are below. The chances are that the layering is not as heavy as you would find there in other tectonic plates. Another issue is you see the yellow marked areas. These are the deserts. And you can see it starts from North Africa, Saharan Desert, Middle East, and obviously it skims the India plate on the northwestern side. And we consider this as a cataclysmic geological forces. For this, we need to understand how deserts are formed. To understand desert is basically what? It's all sand. fine sand, bereft of any minerals, nothing can grow there. Do we see a similar structure, physical structure elsewhere on the planet? Something which is sandy, no minerals, nothing grows there. How about beaches? Beaches are also completely made of sand and it has no minerals, nothing can grow there. So, how these beaches are formed? Beaches are formed because the sea hits the landmass, low tide and high tides. It keeps hitting the landmass. And when it is hitting the landmass, it is pulverizing the soil, which is the edges of the landmass, and converting it into fine sand, taking all the minerals out, making sure that nothing grows there. So, does that mean that it is the beginning of the landmass? It is not so. Assume that you are standing on the beach, barefooted, you have sand below your feet, start walking towards the sea, go into the water ankle deep, you would still have sand below your feet. Go knee deep water, you would still have sand. You go neck deep, you will still have sand. That means the entire seafloor is subjected to the same forces that is subjected on the beaches. That means just the way beaches are dry in nature, pulverized sand, even similar situation exists on the seafloors. So possibly all the sea that you see here, the seafloor of all of this would be very similar to if at all you were to drain the water from the seas, all you would see is deserts everywhere. So that means the deserts that you see in the Middle East, they once were beds of sea. And this sea was possibly shallow sea. Shallow sea in the nature because the magma, there was a local magma movement just below this area. It started from here. This is the seafloor. This is the shallow sea. The magma is pushing it away. It is a local magma and it is raising it just above the sea. And what you see is the sea water gives away and the sea floor gets exposed, and what you see is complete desert. So what you see, this formation of the desert, is because of a magma movement which lifted the sea floor above the sea. And this magma movement obviously will be affecting all the nearby land masses. It would have affected India plate also, but only to the extent of northwestern area, that is here, where we have the Thar desert. So that means the India plate, generally, if you see, around 20% of the area itself is affected by the cataclysmic geological forces. So you still have a majority of the landmass of India unaffected by these geological forces. They expected that the layering would still be there. They would not be mangled by these cataclysmic geological forces. Now,